Hi, Chris from Above Apex here. Today, I want to talk about the 5 off-page geo strategies that drive AI visibility in 2026. So let's get on with it. Before we dive into the first strategy, I want to talk about the mindset behind having a successful off-page geo strategy. And that is not how do I get in AI overviews, but what are the AI models already pulling from and how do I get in all of those opportunities. That could be domains, specific pages, UGC platforms, or whatnot. So this is fundamental because it changes the way you think and approach any strategy and your whole process for the next 3 to 6 months. The first strategy I want to talk about is listicles and comparison inclusions. So roundups are about 50% of what ChatGPT sources pull from for top of funnel queries. And this is extremely, I would say, important because it gives you a really clear validation of what you need to focus on. So we separate listicles or roundups, however you want to call them, in 3 different buckets. The first is direct solution listicles. And an example of this could be best CRM softwares. The second is comparisons or competitor alternatives. And an example of that could be top HubSpot alternatives. The third is industry roundups, as we like to call them. And those are large listicles. An example of industry roundup could be best 20 tools everyone in SEO should use. There could be keyword research tools there could be link tracking tools, there could be all-in-one SEO suites, pretty much everything within the vertical, but different solutions. So this is maybe the most important strategy that you should start with and focus on through relationship building and outreach. The second strategy is competitive gap analysis. This is a strategy that has been fundamental from an SEO standpoint, but now it's also important for building the authority of your own content, and it's a good strategy for finding new link building and brand mention opportunities. And it's done the following way. We find all of the domains and pages that 2+ competitors have links from and brand mentions from, and we cross-match it with our client's link profile. So we basically filter out all of those opportunities that you're not mentioned and you don't have a link from, and we start with targeting all of those pages. So you have a validation on 3 levels. First of all, in terms of effectiveness, if all of those opportunities are moving the needle for your competitors, they'll be working the same way for you. Second, you have relevancy validation. If we're talking about 2+ competitors being mentioned on a particular page, they're probably talking about what you do product-wise and content-wise. And then we have what we call an achievable factor. If 2-3+ competitors are already mentioned there or have links from a particular page, logic follows that you have a pretty high chance of facilitating an inclusion there through a brand mention or a link. So you can see how it's a win all across the board. The third strategy is expert quote outreach, and this is something that has worked really well for our clients. We've gotten links from HubSpot, BBC, Zapier, Business Insider, and I would say that this is one of the best strategies in general for both links and brand mentions because it's leveraging the authority and the brand behind the company and the expertise of the people within the company. So how it works is, for example, an editor on HubSpot is building a content piece about the best, let's say, CRMs for agencies. So we have a client who is a CRM and their CEO or head of operations can provide valuable insight for that particular article, and they can quote this professional. So when they quote them, they include a link and a brand mention from their company. So it's extremely valuable and it's a win-win situation. That's why it works so well. Usually from 100 pitches, as you can see here, for a month, we have a 5 to 10, 12% hit rate, which means you can expect about 5 to 12, 10 brand mentions or links. So I would say that's pretty effective in the long run, especially. Also, it's important to consider that speed is important because the faster you can respond to the requests of editors, heads of content, or journalists, the higher the chance of actually getting and facilitating that brand mention. The fourth strategy is UGC platform presence. And this is actually something that we see being developed in the past, let's say, 3+ months. Why? Because there are constantly new studies being made from big companies that show Reddit, YouTube, LinkedIn, and G2 being the most cited and retrieved platforms when it comes to AI models, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, overviews. So having your brand mentioned in all of those platforms consistently with the right narrative can increase your visibility exponentially. How we do it? So when it comes to Reddit, you can target threads and build new content through posts. There are a couple of ways to target that, but you can always start with the most retrieved and cited threads for your most relevant queries. Then how we do it for LinkedIn is we build content through professionals within a particular industry through posts on or comments. And for YouTube, it's pretty, I would say, straightforward. You have YouTube Shorts and you have dedicated reviews. All of that you can expect, if done properly, to get retrieved or cited, I would say, within a couple of days. For LinkedIn and YouTube, we've seen when we build new content, whether it's YouTube Shorts or a roundup on a LinkedIn profile from a professional within an industry for one of our clients, 48 hours after that content was built, it's getting cited and retrieved. You can imagine what of an impact this could have in the long run and what an opportunity that is. So this is something that you should and could focus on tomorrow through influencers and your own content. The fifth is exactly that, owned content that gets retrieved. So you have a few opportunities here, and I touched on that. The first is UGC platforms, but then you also have your own website. So you have a couple of, I would say, playing options when it comes to your own website. So you can build structured articles that target decision stage queries and comparison. Then you have listicle content via credible LinkedIn pros, like I mentioned, but also on your blog, again, targeting the comparison stage, the evaluation stage. And you can systemize this at the same time, doing it through YouTube, through LinkedIn, and through your own company profiles. And on top of that, you can add your blog. So you can imagine how much new content you can create that targets the comparison and evaluation stage, that at the same time targets those relevant queries through AI models. So this is fundamental, and it's something that you should immediately think about and start working towards, because there's earned content and earned brand mentions, but at the same time you have the opportunity to create new content that you own and control the narrative. When it comes to the two most important pillars for AI visibility in terms of off-page, you have the target, which is getting your brand mentioned, but then you have the target of controlling the narrative, because this is super important for how your brand is perceived in the eyes of all of those LLMs. So those are the 5 strategies that are built and, I would say, have that one clear system within them. How we approach it, if you're interested in having a system like that, is we map out where your brand stands today in terms of off-page, where you're mentioned, and more importantly, where you're not mentioned, and how you can get included into all of those pages, domains, platforms, and UGC content. So hopefully this was useful. Thank you.